So we are going to be working on P.6, which is cross multiplication, but more specifically, cross multiplication trying to find a variable answer. So for all of these, there should be x equals or b equals or something like that for all these problems. For P.7, there is no video, but there is an activity that you will be doing. So make sure you talk to me for P.7 to get the activity that you should be working on. So when we're working on these types of things, we are given the information that these are equal to each other, and I would like you to review your cross multiplication skills from last time to prove that these are a proportion. So we do the x through 2 times 6 is equal to 12, 3 times 4 is equal to 12, therefore this is a proportion. On the bottom, same idea. 5 times 2 is equal to 10. 10 times 1 is equal to 10. And these are also a proportion. This right here that we just did is how you check your answer for all of these problems today. And you will be required to check your answer or you will not get credit. So, now some of you are able to use critical thinking to solve these without using the cross multiplication method, and that's fine on your assignments, but for the sake of this, I want you to force yourself to do cross multiplication because it will get a lot harder. So for this type of problem, we cross through here, and then we're going to do the problem just like we've always done. 4 times 10 is equal to 40. 5 times x is just equal to 5x. And now this should look very similar to the types of problems that we've been working on, that we just divide by 5 on both sides. And so we get x is equal to 8. Now, you are required to check your answer. So the way you check it is you just rewrite the problem with your answer inside. 8 over 10, and you cross multiply. 4 times 10 is 40. 5 times 8 is 40, and you're good. Now, I don't care how you check your answer, but I care that you check your answer, and that is absolutely required for these types of problems. I would also like to point out that for most of these, this should be calculator free. You shouldn't need a calculator for this. Down here on the bottom, we do the same idea. Now, it's almost the same problem as what we've been working on, but it's a little bit different. 8 times x is 8x. 10 times 4, well, that's 40. From here, we just divide by 8. Well, 40 divided by 8, that's 5. And now we check our answer. Equals 4 over 5. 8 times 5, well, that's 40. 10 times 4, that's also 40. Therefore, we know we've done it correctly. All right. For these types of problems, this is where you have to do cross multiplication because there is no secret to how you solve these. But for this top one, we're going to do n times 10, which is 10n, and 3 times 0.4, which is 1.2. And we know that because 3 times 4 is 12, and we need a decimal. So for this, we can solve this just like any other problem. So we get n is equal to, well, 1.2 divided by 10. Well, we're just going to move the decimal 1 to the left and get 0.12. So to check our answer, we do 0.12 divided by 3 is equal to 0.4 divided by 10, and we check our answer like this. 3.4 times 0.4 is 1.2. We know that. 0.12 times 10, well, we're just going to move the decimal 1 to the right, and so that's also 1.2. So that's good. Now, for a problem like this, some of you want to turn this into a fraction. That's okay, but for the first time ever, decimals are easier than fractions because fractions inside of other fractions are really tough to deal with. So decimals are not bad here. Okay? Down here on the bottom, x times 5, well, that's 5x. 3 times 2, well, that's 6. We divide by 5 on both sides. So x is equal to 6 over 5, or 1 1/5, which is 1.2. And then we check our answer. For the sake of time, we're not going to do it because you've seen it a few times already. Okay? Try these on your own. For the top problem, 0.8 times -3 is -2.4. And x times 11 is 11x. Divide by 11. Now this one I can't do in my head. I would like this to clear. There we go. All right. So 2.4 negative divided by 11 is -0.22. And obviously that's a round, so it's not exact. And then you check your answer. Down here at the bottom, 8 times 7, that's 56, is equal to 9y. We divide by 9 on both sides. So y is equal to 6.2. And then you would check your answer. Okay, how are we doing on time? Not great, but not horrible. So for P.7, you will be doing story problems like this and activities. So we won't do a ton of this in the first section, but you will get to some of it later. Mr. Schmidt drives in his car for 4 hours and he travels 132 miles. What if he drove for 3 hours at the same speed? How far would he go? Now, the way to solve this problem is you have to create a proportion. Now, what's important is that if you put miles on the top left and you put, I'll write it like this, if you put miles up here over hours, then the other proportion also has to be miles over hours. Now, if you put hours on the top, that's fine, but you'd have to do hours on the top for the other side as well. So I'm going to create a proportion. I drove in my car for 4 hours, and I drove 132 miles. Well, if I drove for 3 hours, how far would I go? Well, that's the x. We're trying to find miles. So now from here, we can just do this like any other story problem. So we do 132 times 3. Well, that's 396. That sounds right. Is equal to 4x. And now I just divide by 4. Well, I can do this through long division. $99. And then I just have to label. And we're looking for miles, so it's 99 miles. Okay? Key to working out these problems is miles to miles, hours to hours, or whatever label. Just make sure you don't switch your labels at any point. Try these and see what you get. Okay, so Brendan shot 7 baskets and made 5. So I'm going to go 5 over 7. And what if he shot 23 baskets and made the same percentage? Well, he's trying to figure out how many he would make, and he shot 23. So cross multiply. 5 times 23, that's 115, equals 7x. I divide by 7. Now this one's not going to be exact, so we're going to have to estimate. 16.4. Well, I can't make part of a basket, so he's going to make 16 baskets. Okay, obviously these are going to take some practice, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you have questions, please ask me and we will work through them.